The senator from West Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the recognition. I rise today to deliver, I think, one of my more important speeches that I will give as a member of this body, and that is to defend the long-standing rules of the United States Senate. We are at a critical moment, make no mistake. With the slimmest of majorities, the Democrats haven't been able to pass their wildly unpopular agenda, so they are considering using the nuclear option, just think of the term nuclear option, to show you how draconian it is, to eliminate the Senate's 60-vote threshold for legislation. And they are doing it under the guise of protecting voting rights. But make no mistake, this power grab is not about voting rights. Instead, is it about advancing one party's agenda. So I'd like to take a look back at what Democrats, including President Biden, have said on the issue and why they are changing their tune. We can also debunk the argument that if given the chance, Republicans would change the rules and eliminate the filibuster, as the Democrats wish to do now. And finally, and most important to me, I'm going to talk about how this short-sighted move would impact West Virginians, those that I represent here in the Senate. They're the ones who will ultimately be hurt by this reckless and irresponsible change, and it's my responsibility to do what I can to stop it. So, as President Biden is in Atlanta today, taking the bully pulpit to protest a state's law that he does not like as a reason to end the filibuster. He even says, this is one of those defining moments. It really is. People are going to be judged where they were before and where they are after the vote. Interesting he would say that, because I would like to remind President Biden where he was when he was Senator Biden and what he had to say about eliminating the filibuster on this very floor in 2005. He said, and I quote, "It's not only a bad idea, it upsets the constitutional design and it disservices the country." Well, Senator Biden, I couldn't agree more. But he's not the only one who has done a complete 180 when it comes to the filibuster. Majority Leader Schumer once said it would be doomsday for democracy. That sounds pretty bad. Doomsday for democracy if the filibuster were to be eliminated. And he's right. More recently, he called the filibuster the most important distinction between the House and the Senate. Again, I couldn't agree more. And from my home state of West Virginia, the late Senator Robert Byrd, a longtime Democrat, was unequivocal in his defense of preserving Senate rules. He wrote in 2010 that, quote, "The Senate has been the last fortress of minority rights and freedom of speech in this republic for more than 2 centuries. I pray that senators will pause and reflect before ignoring that history and that tradition in favor of the political priority of the moment." What would he say today? So again, this is not about voting rights. It's important to note that we did have a record turnout in 2020. More people voted than ever before. More than 158 ballots were cast in 2020, which is a 7% increase from 2016. And we didn't have this voting rights legislation. In West Virginia, we had thousands more people vote than voted in 2016. As a matter of fact, the total number of ballots that were cast in 2020 was more than any election in our history, with one exception, the 1960 election of President John F. Kennedy. So don't believe the hyperbole. Don't believe the rhetoric. Don't take the bait. The party-wide flip-flop we are now seeing has nothing to do with voting rights. Instead, it has everything to do with paving the way for an aggressive and progressive agenda that the Democrats wish to enact. One of the arguments from the other side I hear all the time is, well, the Republicans would do the same thing and change the rules if given the chance. Guess what? We could have done that. Unfortunately, that argument doesn't carry much weight. Leader McConnell, sometimes under intense pressure to do this, he never wavered, and we protected this institution. We didn't change the rules on the legislative filibuster when we didn't get our way. We could have, but we didn't. Again, he knows, just as President Biden and Leader Schumer know, that if you can't get what you want, changing the rules is no way to govern. I certainly wouldn't run my household like that. It's no way to govern because it ultimately hurts those who sent us here to represent them. My home state of West Virginia, you know what they want? They want us to work together, like they saw us do on the bipartisan infrastructure bill. I hear this all the time. Bipartisanship is critical to making good and better policy. And if the Senate rules are changed, it would be a relic of the past. We just passed and was signed into law the infrastructure bill that I worked to negotiate. We've also passed the CARES Act. We've passed opioid. We passed the Great American Outdoors Act, bipartisan. We can do this, but if we change the rules to where only 50 votes are needed to pass legislation, there will be zero incentive for motivation for the two sides to work together. And just as badly, legislative accomplishments can be done or undone and redone and done over and over with just one flip of a Senate seat. Policies harmful to my state could be enacted. The Green New Deal, court packing, federalizing our elections. By the way, 54 of my 55 county clerks oppose that legislation. Packing the Senate with new states, defunding the police, attacking the Second Amendment for law-abiding Americans, and more. We don't even have to imagine what Democrats could do or would want to do, but you just look at New York and what they just did. They just they're going to allow 800,000 non-citizens to vote. To put that in context, in my state of West Virginia, we only had 794,000 voters who voted for president in 2020. Ramming radical policies through Congress without even attempting to gain consensus is not what our founders envisioned, and it's not how Americans want us to operate. Rest assured, those willing to change the rules to benefit themselves will do it again and again and again. Today, supposedly, it's voting rights. Tomorrow, it could be gun control. The next day, it could be open borders. I can only imagine. I'm asking my fellow senators on the other side of the aisle, don't do this. You'll come to regret it, I think, if you do. But I think that we need to preserve the rights of the minority. We need to preserve the chance for bipartisanship. We need to preserve the traditions of the Senate. If you destroy this tradition, unfortunately, the country will suffer the consequences. Thank you.